Hey there, BookTube. Noah. Thanks for coming by again. Everyone who reads it must converse. Today, it's all about Clarice Lispector, The Passion According to G.H. You'll see on my videos, I had read Agua Viva just earlier this year. Amazing book. A very even less accessible than this, as far as a straightforward narrative. But what it is Clarice Lispector is writing, and you're writing to you. And the way that she writes is like this thing has no revisions. She's doing she's writing, talking straight to you, and just describing things, or just saying, just talking. It's amazing how she does it. She has great the wordplay. There's she's one to I like it a lot. She's one to define terms like everyday terms. Is, it, itself. What does that really mean when she's saying it? Something is it and of itself, and calling that out. What does she mean? And she'll describe it like that, and then from then on she can go even further. She can go into a philosophical idea of being, and things about time and being in a certain time or space. And she can use that kind of stuff as her starting point to make claims and work through ideas. What is this about? The story. She's a well-to-do sculptress. Her maid left a day ago. She decides she's going to clean her house. She loves to arrange things. So she decides she's going to clean her house from back to front. And the back is the maid's room, of course. Back in the back hallway, there's the maid's room. She goes in there expecting to find just a shabby, run-down room. And she goes in there and it's clean. And there's nothing going on except for that it's dry, and that there's dust everywhere. And she's in Rio de Janeiro in the summer, in the morning. So there's a window. She's on a penthouse, the top of a huge building. And in there's a window, and then it's just a bed, a chifforobe, which is what we call here in the South, like a, standalone closet, like a wardrobe or something like that. So, and then her own luggage. Her own luggage is piled up on one side, GH. And that's it. Nothing else in the room. This weird kind of painting on the wall. And she's thrown for a loop. She's put into some weird place that, like, she's in a room, or that in a space that's in her own home that she did not, create, and that is not hers. And then she decides that, the maid never liked her, and did this, to spite her, kind of thing. And looks in the wardrobe, in the chifforobe, and the door hits the bed. So she peeks her head in like this, just to see that it's clean and everything. And there's this fat cockroach just right next to her. And of course she, straightens up, shrinks back, horrified, sits on the bed and is thinking. And she hates cockroaches. She's never really confronted one in her life. Kind of thing. And as she's sitting there thinking, and now we've gone, what I've said right here, now we've gone like, 3 chapters or something, 3 little parts. They're not full chapters. They're just certain thoughts or ideas in chronological order, that just develop, give it some kind of pacing, but they're very short. So I mean, I would read 2 or 3 parts in very quickly in one sitting. But 3 parts, 4 parts maybe we've gone through. So it's a lot of this interior work, her thoughts and how she looks at the world. It's beautiful. And I'm just going to let her, from now, speak, except for to say, as she's sitting there thinking, the cockroach starts crawling out of the door of the chifforobe and she decides to kill it. She wants to kill it. And she slams the door of the shift row, and it closes, but not all the way, and it crushes the cockroach just in the door. It's like just hanging half in, half out, and busted, and just hanging there. And she's sitting there on the bed, thinking, looking at it, looking around, looking at the room, and looking at it, and meditating the death of this cockroach for the rest of the novel. That's what it is. Now, the real of what it is, I'm just gonna let her kind of give her take on it, and then I'm gonna just expound a little bit. Page 85. I know that, even in secret, freedom doesn't take care of guilt. But one must be greater than guilt. The tiny divine part of me is greater than my human guilt, and the God is greater than my essential guilt. So I prefer God to my guilt, not to excuse myself and to flee, but because guilt diminishes me. So there's, she's reflecting on the cockroach, that she has nothing to be guilty of. Creatures kill other creatures, and this is part of what we're here to do. You couldn't not kill another living creature, even tomorrow, all day, even if you tried. You're stepping on little insects or whatever. So 111, and I couldn't forget at the outset of the job, which means the outset of the job is meditating this roach, really just going through this thought stream, her setting out to do that. That's the job she was referring to. And I couldn't forget at the outset of the job to prepare myself to err, not forgetting that the error had often become my path. Every time something I was thinking or feeling didn't work out, was because finally there was a breach, and if I'd have had courage before, I'd have already gone through it. But I'd always been afraid of delirium and of error. My error, however, must be the path of a truth, since only when I err do I step out of what I know and what I understand. If truth were just whatever I could understand, it would end up being just a small truth, one my size. And so she's really getting to the examination of the mind, and very comfortable with it. Although, like I said, this is addressed right to you, and through this time, she's holding your hand for her own comfort. She's holding your hand to have courage to tell you what she's telling you. All right, page 125. Because inside myself I saw what hell is like. Hell is the mouth that bites and eats the living flesh with its blood, and the one being eaten howls with delight in his eye. Hell is pain as delight of the matter, and with the laughter of delight the tears run in pain. And the tear that comes from the laughter of pain is the opposite of redemption. I was seeing the exonerability of the roach with its ritual mask. I was seeing that was hell, the cruel acceptance of pain, the solemn lack of pity for one's own destiny, the loving the ritual of life more than one's own self. That was hell, where the one eating the other's living face was indulging in the joy of pain. So, she becomes, one with this dying cockroach, mentally speaking, spiritually speaking, gets to a point of seeing and becoming and being in the process, the death process of this roach. And she goes through that herself, and she sees that is hell. The animals are in hell. Even the bugs, for sure. I mean, these little small animals, smaller ones that can even have thoughts. Their brain, there's not a brain like that to really have any kind of thoughts or anything, that is complete hell. Can't self-express at all. There's no such thing as self-expression. It's all instinct. It's the expression of the all, the God, as she would say. 132, page 132. I had fallen into the temptation of seeing, the temptation of knowing and feeling. My grandeur, searching for the grandeur of God, had taken me to the grandeur of hell. I had not been able to understand his organization except through the spasm of a demonic exaltation. Curiosity had expelled me from the shelter, and I was finding the indifferent God, who is all good because he is neither bad nor good. I was in the heart of the matter, that is the indifferent explosion of itself. Life was having the strength of a titanic indifference that wanted to advance, and I, who wanted to advance with it, had been hooked on the pleasure that was making me merely hellish. So she realizes a deeper, a bigger, a greater, a more grandeur God is what she's transcends an idea of God that she had, and is going towards the indifferent God, she calls it. And I take it to be this kind of expression given to about God, that is when Paul said that God is no respecter of persons. God is no respecter of individuals. And God is here for all of humanity and working a bigger plan that is, nobody can see. You can't try to put the pieces together and judge it, or to try to make sense of it. There is a bigger plan, and all these animals that are in hell are in that plan. All the humans that have gone towards the terrible joy of pain, and rejecting true redemption, that is part of it. God accepts that we have the choice to do that, as hard as it is to understand. And so she's working through that depth. Page 136. Oh God, I was starting to understand with enormous surprise that my hellish side was human torment itself. How could I have guessed, if I didn't know that one laughs in suffering? Because I didn't know that that was how one suffered. So I had called joy my deepest sufferings. And in that sob, the God came to me, and the God was occupying all of me now. I was offering my hell to God. The first sob had made of my terrible pleasure and of my feast a new pain that now was as light and helpless as the flower of my own desert. The tears that were flowing now were like those of a love, those for a love. The God who could never be understood by me except as I understood him, breaking me like a flower that at birth can barely hold itself up and seems to break. So, with that, she is just giving it up to a higher understanding, and becoming one with an indifferent look at the whole of creation, that it's all one and God is one. It's a view of a much bigger God. Now, 200 pages, guys, 200 pages. And after which, what I talked about there is a scene where or a couple of paragraphs or a page or two where it is expounded the God's relationship to human beings and human beings' relationship to God. This is great. This is great stuff. It'll give you a lot of food for thought. 200 pages. It's a wild, few hours, maybe 5 hours, locked, closed in a room with a woman and a dying roach. You will, you won't forget it. Thank you, BookTube. Hope y'all enjoyed this. Like, comment, let me know.